My name's Frances McKay. I have written a non-fiction book that got published. It's called Pieces of China, and that was about my time in China and other stuff. And now I'm writing a humorous novel about a girl who goes to Paris and becomes an au pair in the 1970s. And yeah, so that's my writing life at the moment.
My name's Claire. Yeah, like I said, I started with a diary of just all my despair being made redundant. And Frances has inspired me to maybe turn it into a work of fiction, which I'm working out which characters I'm going to put in and which characters I'm going to keep out, which is really nice. And it's fun to play with looking back on your life and take some control.
I'm Katherine. I did start off by writing something a bit autobiographical, memoir style writing. Now I feel like I'm not writing anything in particular. I'm having a little bit of a break from writing, but writing music and trying to write program notes.
Hi, I'm John, and so I was a professional in my career, and then I retired and built a house. So I thought if I could do that, I could probably write. So I started writing science fiction because I read anything as long as it's science fiction. And it's proven to be one of the most rewarding things I've done in my life.
Stories and Stanza is a podcast exploring creativity, resilience, and the transformative power of human stories. Through our 2 series, Between the Lines with creators and Fail With Me focusing on wellness and life's challenges, we bring you authentic conversations with inspiring voices from around the world. If you are drawn to meaningful dialogue that both comforts and challenges, follow us on YouTube or any podcast platform.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Stories and Stanza. Today is the first time I'm recording this in person in our library in Moonee Ponds with my local writing group, and we will speak to all my writer friends here, and we will explore what we usually do in Stories and Stanza. For those who are new, we run 2 series in it. One is called Between the Lines, which is getting familiarity about the writer's work, their inspiration and challenges. And the other series is called Fail With Me, which is about human stories, authenticity and resilience. We will pass on the mic from one person to another, and of course anyone can jump in and ask questions. I have never done recording in a group, so I'm really excited. Frances, over to you. Tell us a little bit about this group, how you started, where we meet, what do we do?
I actually didn't start the group. John did, and he stuck
the mic a little bit closer.
He stuck me with it one night. So I'm the person who's now the convener. And I just keep it going, hopefully.
Doing a good job.
Yeah, because you don't want it back.
John, do you want to add?
Sure, yeah. Thanks. We're a group of volunteer writers. I guess every writer is a volunteer writer. They all have their own reasons for writing, and perhaps we'll get into that tonight. But it's great to have a place where you can go and share your ideas and get some feedback, and that's what this group is really trying to do. Encourage people who want to write to be able to write and give them feedback so they can improve their craft.
Thank you. So, first question I had in mind, and anyone please feel free to jump in and take the mic. Yeah. So, I have seen many writing communities, and every writing community thrives on their own definition of doing this together. So sometimes there are writing prompts and sometimes reading each other's work. I have seen poetry writing groups and fiction writing groups. What I like is that here everyone is using their own strength, their own genre, and then bringing it to the table. And how much, for this group, how much does it matter that we are meeting in person? Do you think that makes the community stronger?
I personally like the idea of meeting people face to face, and I think getting that direct input and discussion is worthwhile. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
Oh. I think we live in a society that is increasingly disconnected, and we use online communication. It's not the same as being in the room and meeting each other and meeting essentially strangers and having them have the courage to share some of their most vulnerable, innermost thoughts with each other and then get critiqued on it. And I think it's an amazing, magical place, and I feel privileged to be here.
For me, I think the most important thing is just getting to know new people and catching up, really, the writing aspect of it. That's important too, but for me, joining the group was more about trying to make new connections in the community. That was what was important to me.
Yes, writing is a sole profession. You sit in front of a computer or a piece of paper and you plant your thoughts and hope someone else finds them interesting. But getting together in writing groups is the best way you can about getting quick feedback on what you're doing and just whether other people think it's worthwhile and how it can be improved. So for me, it's not just a social occasion. It's a very important part of learning how to write.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So I interview a lot of writers on my podcast, and recently I had a guest request of someone who is encouraging to write bad poetry. It sounds funny, but I think I have written my share of bad poetry. I'm sure I still do. What I really liked about it is that the guest who has written a book, but she's also a practicing therapist. So this is a technique that she uses. So what she tries to say to people who come to see her, consult with her, that don't be ashamed of writing. You may not be very good with it, but if you start accepting, then gradually it can do wonders for you. And I really like that idea. The episode isn't live yet, so we recorded. What I wanted to ask is, and open to the floor, is basically when we are in a writing group and then when we are sharing our writing, okay, everyone is in a different learning curve of their own writing, their own style, whatever format they are choosing. How do we be at peace with what we are writing? How do we accept what we are writing? Do you want to share your thoughts? Be comfortable sharing that with others.
I think as a writer, you do want to share what you're writing, because unless you're just doing a diary for yourself. And so the idea that you're writing, hopefully for at least half a dozen people, or even just for yourself, I think the enjoyment of creating something, whether it's writing or a painting or whatever you do that you like to create, you have that sense of fulfilment of creating something, even if it's just that you're doing it for your own amusement.
Yeah, I certainly write for myself. But I do have other people in mind. I write science fiction, so there's a lot of science involved in it. And one of my goals is to make sure that people can see science as entertaining rather than threatening. It's not just about education, it's about presenting the material in an interesting way that is a real story about real people doing things that perhaps most people don't do. And so science fiction is a vehicle for me to actually do some education. But I confess, if there was no other people in the world, I would still be writing.
Yeah. John, I was just going to say I absolutely love that, because I think so often we put limitations on ourselves. Like, we live in the real world and we're like, oh, that's not realistic, or that can't happen, or that's not me, or that's not my story, or I can't. We stop ourselves. And I love using writing and story to open up and be like, okay, if we took all of that away and we made it, everything was possible, what would you do? Yeah. And I think that's such a beautiful way to be. I love that idea.
I have recently discovered that I'm dyslexic, and it's made a lot of sense to me, because I finally realised why writing is so incredibly difficult for me, and has always been really difficult for me, just trying to access words. For me, the things that I enjoy writing the most and find easiest to write are memories. And so when I've been writing, I've just been doing memoir style things, because the words seem to flow more easily when it comes from my own past experiences and memory of past experiences and things. But in general, I would say that I'm more of a composer than a writer. I write music, and words I find incredibly difficult to access, to even just trying to think of the right words to say, I find difficult. So for me, writing is very challenging.
Wonderful. I don't need it, so. Okay. So in the podcast, when I interview a writer guest, what I usually ask them is, what is it that you are trying to communicate through your work? And we can possibly look at it from different angles, different perspectives here. And even for fiction writers, they possibly have some kind of inner motivation or something that draws them to that particular genre of fiction. And a lot of other questions come up from that discussion. And for this group, can all of you talk about what you are writing and what is it that you want to communicate through your work?
I suppose the book I'm writing now is very different to the book I wrote before, which was a non-fiction. But I just thought I'd have a bit of fun with another part of my life, but this is not actually me, and use things that I have been through or have done in the past, and just have a jolly old time with it, making up a whole pile of stuff and making an amusing story. And somehow the reason I'm doing it is for fun, and maybe if I'm lucky I might get it published or self-published, even if I just give it to friends. and people go, I wonder what's real in that and what's not. But no, I'm just doing it for enjoyment as well.
I guess for me, I started really writing last year. I was, unexpectedly found myself being made redundant from work, and it was really shocking. I've always, had my career and professionally quite central to my life. So to have the realization that can so quickly be removed from you and you have so little control over it. And so, I just started to capture how I felt about it, because I felt obviously a lot of shame, anger, and embarrassment around my experience. And I thought, if I've been through this, and I'm quite a well-adjusted person, I can't imagine if someone is dealing with something else on top of this experience, how devastating it would be. And I thought I would just capture what I went through so no one ever has to feel alone or judgment for themselves for feeling the way that they feel going through a horrible experience.
Yeah, it's similar. I started writing, it's a lot. I started writing a lot about a bit over a year ago, when I got really sick with illness, and I did find it it was like a form of therapy, and it was the only thing that would take my mind off my symptoms. I guess when you're writing, it can put you in a state of flow where it switches off your thoughts and sensations that you're feeling, because you're so concentrating on what you're doing. So I became quite addicted to writing for a while. But now that I'm a bit not as sick as I was, I'm finding it more challenging to write. So I've been writing more music. And at the moment, I'm trying to write a program note for a piece that I've written, and I'm really struggling with it, because I'm just, things were flowing so much better last year when there was a lot to write about, but now, it's becoming more of a challenge.
What type of music is it that you're trying to write the program notes for?
I just finished writing a string quartet. And I was trained that whenever I finish a piece of music, I need to have something that is a program note that says something about the piece or the inspiration behind the piece. But I've always found it really challenging to think of the right words to say and make it sound good. So, I think hopefully next time I will have something for you. I didn't bring anything today, though.
It's all right.
Well, for most of my life, I haven't been a writer. In fact, I only took it up seriously when I retired, and I kept it secret because I thought people would laugh at me. But no one has actually ever laughed at me.
Why should they?
Yeah, it's very reassuring. I did find, even when I was young, that if I read a good story, I kept writing it. I expanded it and turned it into a longer story. And since in the years since my retirement, I've been able to do that and turn ideas into whole novels. And it's just the best fun. I enjoy reading other people's work, but not as much as I enjoy reading my own.
Well, it's your genre that you like, that's why.
I write what I like, and I like what I write. Which is wonderful if it can be done. The question is, do other people like it? And that's still to be determined.
Wonderful. I would like to add something to what Claire is saying. That I was on the same boat as you, and we knew that I used to work in a small organization, and we knew that we were being taken over by a larger organization. So it was an inevitability that I lose my job, but I didn't know when. It was a very interesting chapter of my life because I went through a range of emotions, and maybe at some stage I will write about it. What's interesting is that at some stage I decided that it happens now, I cannot delay this any further. I knew this was happening but didn't know when, and at some stage I just said allow me to finish up because it's a stripping of that bandit there. And when I took that decision, I got so many calls from colleagues and was become friends because we worked together in small office for years and years, and everybody said that they are going through a same emotion.
Yeah. Would be, yeah.
Yeah. And Claire and I, we've been talking about maybe documenting this at some stage about just our observations and our thoughts around it. And sorry, I'm answering my own question.
That's all right. You're allowed.
You are a member of the group.
Thank you. This is something I try to tell any writer friend I make, is that for a very long time I used to feel that I have to write from a place of pain or frustration and negative emotions, and I kept doing that for many years. I remember that this is, I don't know, funny and sad both at the same time. A couple of years ago, I was just doing this poetry writing month challenge, and it's every day you have to write something. And I was in hospital for a couple of days in April, and I said, I have to write. And then I am not in the right frame of mind. What can you possibly write in a hospital? You can see that there are other people's, there is always that sad vibe in the hospital. And after that, I think I haven't written anything substantial except for what I write for at work. I haven't really written anything creative in this long time, but now I feel that I don't need to write from a place of pain. I think we should write from a place of balance or peace, because whether I'm happy or I'm sad, it will come, it will reflect in my writing anyway. I don't need to compensate it.
No.
That's my biggest sort of writing motivation. And I am writing a book which is called Fail With Me. And of course, I don't want anybody to fail. It is about, similar to what Claire you're saying, that the range of emotions we feel in a very difficult time. And for a long time, I decided whether to write it or not. But now I think I am in a stage where I can openly write about it, accept that, and put it in paper. Whether someone reads or not, that's a different question. I really like that title, that Fail With Me, is just because at some stage I thought that I'm messing up everything. And I wanted to have like a sarcastic tone around it, that how do I write about it.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, all of us fail. That's the human experience. And we all learn so much more from the failures, but we all cover them up. We don't talk about them. We're like, oh no, everything was great. And it was just like this, and then I went from that success to this success to that success, and now it's like a beautiful, blissful bubble that I live in. No. Life is like a heartbeat. There's like all ups and downs for us all, and I wish we would be real with each other. And I think now also in terms of social media, you see this pictures of what people's highlights reel, and that's not what people live every day. And I wish we would stop expecting life to be just on an up and up trajectory. It's not like that. You've got to go through all the valleys and crevices to know yourself. That's when you really shine. So yeah, please write your book. I will read it.
Wonderful.
I'm happy to read a bit for you if you'd like.
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay, so this is, I wanted something introductory and short. So this is a prelude. And let me begin. Prelude. At the outer edge of the Milky Way galaxy, a three-star system approached a cataclysmic landmark. The two massive central stars drew closer together, spinning faster and faster, as one exhausted its hydrogen fuel and entered its red giant phase. The second star had earlier completed this transition and had condensed into a compact white dwarf that greedily siphoned material from its rapidly expanding close companion. The situation could have only one ending. Eventually, the white dwarf became so massive that it initiated a new short but intense bout of fusion, creating in mere seconds entire planet loads of heavy elements and releasing massive quantities of energy that burst the engorged dwarf's apart in the most energetic event in the universe, a supernova explosion. Deprived of its massive companion, the shattered red giant was flung off, heading out of the Milky Way galaxy at 100,000 kilometres per second. The much smaller third star fared even worse. To conserve angular momentum, gravity catapulted it off 100 times faster, arcing in toward the centre of the galaxy at 3% of the speed of light. Supernova remnants collided with the small star, stripping off its outer layers and almost extinguishing the nuclear fires that burned at its heart. 20,000 years later, a human astronomer discovered a faint star hurtling through the Milky Way in the wrong direction. The rogue star was given a catalogue number and studied as a curiosity for many years. Late in the 21st century, it was informally renamed Rogue and became the centre of human attention.
I love it.
Yeah, so this is a prelude to the first book in a series called Rogue Genesis.
Maybe he's reading some of the others.
Yes, I've read some bits to several of the writing groups I'm part of. I've got some very useful feedback. This was the first book I wrote, and so it was incredibly useful for me to learn how to write, getting feedback from people.
Yeah, I love how you talk about the difference, like the red dwarfs and the supernova events and the hydrogen. It's all, as you said earlier, like fact-based. So this is exactly how this is our universe. This is where we live.
Yeah, the universe is a huge, mysterious place, and it's full of such fascinating things. Explosions that would totally vaporise the Earth, the entire Earth. It makes hydrogen bombs look like penny crackers. But people don't see it. They're not exposed to it. They sometimes consider science to be difficult, and they don't have a way of accessing this sort of information, of appreciating it. And I hope that my stories can illuminate that and give people some glimpse of the real universe.
Yeah, no, thank you.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, Tom. My book's called Postcards from Paris. She's a young Australian girl who arrives in Paris, becomes an au pair. Now, I'm going to read from when she gets her first job, and she's just come back from going to class because she's learning French while she's there too. So anyhow, she's rushed out of class to get back home as she had to prepare lunch. She definitely wasn't looking forward to cooking because she hadn't cooked anything other than toast and had no idea where to start. Why would a French person want Anglo to cook for them anyway? Surely she had to be incapacitated or crazy, but Madame seemed neither, she mused. She entered the kitchen with trepidation for the first time. Madame, what are we going to cook for lunch, she asked. Jane, we're having something simple for you to cook. L'omelette aux fines herbes avec la salade et les croutons et l'herbe. Okay, how many eggs? Croutons what? 2 per person. That's going to be a good start. She hunted around the kitchen for a bowl and a fry pan. Eggs were easy to find. What herbs does she want? Madame Benoit stood there watching Jane bumble around. Voila, I found everything for the omelette. Where are the herbs? Don't you think you should make the croutons first? What are they and how do I do them? Don't you know anything? I'll help you a bit. Here's some bread from yesterday. Cut it into little squares, chop and cook some cloves of garlic in the fry pan and then toss the bread in the garlic together with oil and put them in a baking dish in the oven. And don't forget to chop up the herbs before you start making the omelettes. Madam left Jane to it. This isn't going well. If this is easy, what are the other meals will I have to cook going to be like? Jane found the herbs on the table. Parsley she knew, but the 3 others she had no idea. She picked the others one by one, crushing the leaves and smelt them. The first one she picked up looked a little like parsley, smaller but lighter in colour. She crushed it between her fingers. It smelt grassy, anise aroma. Then the next had glossy, long, dark leaves and had a stronger anise, licorice fragrance. And the last looked a lot like grass, smelt like onions. She chopped them all up, mixed them together, sprinkled them over the eggs as she made the omelettes. She whipped 2 eggs at a time, didn't know whether to use butter or oil to cook, but then she remembered that she had read somewhere the French use a lot of butter, so she decided to use that. She cut up the lettuce, placed it in the bowl and started the omelettes. The first one looked more like scrambled eggs by the time she got it out the pan. That's mine, she decided. The next one should be better. Each one she retrieved from the pan looked slightly better. Then she could smell something burning. Shit, the croutons, she muttered under her breath as she opened the oven door, waved the smoke away, noting they looked exceedingly crisp. I don't think they're totally irretrievable. And then she threw some lettuce then she threw them on the lettuce. She took the omelettes plus the salad into Madame and Eldel and Charlotte, then her own. As she sat down, she smiled and said, "Bon appetit." "Jane, what have you done to the lettuce?" "I cut it up, of course." "Mon Dieu, you don't cut up lettuce, you break it up." "Oh, why isn't there any dressing on the salad? I didn't see any bottles of dressing in the cupboards." "Sacre bleu, you have to make the dressing yourself." "OK, we'll just go without it now." Adele looked at Jane with a knowing smirk on her face. Jane noticed it and felt as if she's going to disappear under the table. This whole cooking thing felt like the beginning of a nightmare for her. She smiled, shrugged her shoulders, put her head down, ate her scrambled omelette. If cooking lunch was purgatory, she imagined cooking dinner was going to be hell.
Claire, do you want to read anything?
Oh, I'm not going to read anything. No, it's not really. I don't think.
You can share anything. Do you want to? That's okay. If you don't want to, that's fine.
I'm okay. Because I'm working on 2 different ideas, so I think, But, yeah.
Maybe some other time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but that was great to hear. Yeah.
Katherine, do you want to?
I don't have anything to say.
That's all that. What do we talk about next?
Yeah, I think,
Maybe we can say where we're at our story. I'm near the end. I've had her go through. My heroine has grown over the period, so she hasn't become such a klutz and stupid, but she has made stupid mistakes. And the reason it's called Postcards from Paris, because at the end of every chapter she says, "Dear Mum and Dad," and there's 2 lines, and says something, "Love Jane, letter following," and that's at the end of every chapter. Yeah, so, no, and then I'm still thinking about, I've got 2 other books in my mind at the moment.
Wonderful. You got anything to add?
Sure. So I wrote a book, and we writers talk in terms of words. It was 380,000 words.
And I thought 68,000 words, but no.
Yeah. Which was about 800 pages, A4 pages. So I tried to get someone to publish it, and I was told that it was 3 times too long for a first book. So I've split it into 3, and I'm going to try and publish it this year. And the first third of it is now with beta readers who are going to give me some final feedback so I can edit it and publish it. And I'll probably be self-publishing because that's possible to do. And I haven't found a way of actually using traditional publishers to publish my work yet. Hopefully that'll happen in the future.
So I think we'll just conclude by saying that where do we meet, and then if anyone comes across this.
Do you want to handle that?
Oh, thank you.
Please share the story of how you became the chairperson of
This Moonee Valley Writing Group meets every second Monday of the month. It's at Sam Merrifield Library in Moonee Ponds at 7 o'clock, 7 to 8, or to when we finish. So sometimes it goes longer, sometimes it's shorter, depends on who's here, what we're doing, what we're discussing, and so forth. So everybody's welcome. Doesn't matter what you're writing, even if you just want to come and feel the creative urges, you'll be more than welcome.
And I could add that every month people who have written something and they want feedback on it circulate it around the group and get feedback either via email or on the night of the meeting. So it's an opportunity, if you're ready and if you want it, to get feedback on your work, which I always find very valuable.
Yes, me too. Yes, I do too.
I'd like to conclude by saying one thing, that when I started this podcast, I felt that a lot of writers find it very difficult to promote their own work. So I thought that maybe as a writer myself, if I start interviewing others, then that could be something interesting. But then I thought, who will come to my podcast and will listen? But 3 years later, I get more requests than I can possibly handle.
That's very, very good.
And then recently I felt that I get all these requests from all over the world that, hey, we want to do this, we want to talk about this book, etc. But I felt that I want to do something local where possibly we can meet in person, leverage what resources we have. It doesn't have to be super fancy, it doesn't have to be expensive, it can be simple.
Yes.
And as a part of that initiative, what I shared that thought with our council, that this is what I want to do, can you help me in a way? So what they have said is, we will support you provided you do this more often. So they are giving me a venue which is otherwise a little bit more expensive. So they have discounted that rate for me, and they have told me to plan at least 3 events this year. So the first discussion is happening on 29th of August, and the writer is from Gippsland. She has written a book called So Who Are You Anyway? It's the journey of a mother and a lot of mental health challenges in her family, and she's a big journaling advocate. So, and I was not sure whether I should do this or not, but Sarah insisted that, hey, let's do this, we can do this. So we took the plunge and we are doing it, and she's driving all the way just for this event. I hope that if it reaches people here in Moonee Valley, please join in, and it'll be wonderful to have you in there. And then after that, I've spoken with 2 more guests. One discussion would be focused on men's mental health with a somatic practitioner and therapist who lives in Melbourne, and we already recorded an episode and it was really good, and we want to do the next one in person. And the third one is again with another group of therapists who are based in Dandenong or on that side, like in Southeast. And we wanted to record 1 episode and we couldn't finish in 2. So this is probably going to be the 3rd one, and we are talking about how do we know when to get help. So these are some of the topics that I strongly believe in, and I started pursuing as a part of my Fail With Me writing. Yeah, that's I guess a wrap. And to anyone joining and listening to this on a podcast platform or watching this on YouTube, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.